Crickets are orthopteran insects which are related to bush crickets and, more distantly, to grasshoppers. In older literature, such as Imms, 3 crickets were placed at the family level, i.e. Grylloidea, but contemporary authorities, including Otte, now place them in the superfamily Grylloidea. 1. The word has been used in combination to describe more distantly related taxa 3 in the suborder Ensiform, such as king crickets and mole crickets. Crickets have mainly cylindrically shaped bodies, round heads, and long antennae. Behind the head is a smooth, robust pronotum. The abdomen ends in a pair of long cerci. Females have a long, cylindrical ovipositor. Diagnostic features include legs with 3 segmented tarsi. As with many Orthoptera, the hind legs have enlarged femora, providing power for jumping. The front wings are adapted as tough, leathery elytra, and some crickets chirp by rubbing parts of these together. The hind wings are membranous and folded when not in use for flight. Many species, however, are flightless. The largest members of the family are the bull crickets, brachytroops, which are up to 5 centimeters in long. Crickets are distributed all around the world except at latitudes 55 or higher, with the greatest diversity being in the tropics. They occur in varied habitats from grassland, bushes, and forests to marshes, beaches, and caves. Crickets are mainly nocturnal and are best known for the loud, persistent, chirping song of males trying to attract females, although some species are mute. The singing species have good hearing via the tympana on the tibia of the front legs. Crickets often appear as characters in literature. The talking cricket features in Carlo Collodi's 1883 children's book, The Adventures of Pinocchio, and in films based on the book. The insect is central to Charles Dickens's 1845 The Cricket on the Hearth and George Selden's 1960 The Cricket in Times Square. Crickets are celebrated in poems by William Wordsworth, John Keats, Du Fu, and Vladimir Nazor. They are kept as pets in countries from China to Europe, sometimes for cricket fighting. Crickets are efficient at converting their food into body mass, making them a candidate for food production. They are used as human food in Southeast Asia, where they are sold deep-fried in markets as snacks. They are also used to feed carnivorous pets and zoo animals. In Brazilian folklore, crickets feature as omens of various events. Crickets are small to medium-sized insects with mostly cylindrical, somewhat vertically flattened bodies. The head is spherical, with long, slender antennae rising from cone-shaped scapes, first segments, and just behind these are 2 large compound eyes. On the forehead are 3 ocelli simple eyes. The pronotum, first thoracic segment, is trapezoidal in shape, robust, and well sclerotized. It is smooth and has neither dorsal nor lateral keels ridges. For at the tip of the abdomen is a pair of long cerci, paired appendages on rearmose segment, and in females, the ovipositor is cylindrical, long and narrow, smooth and shiny. The femora third segments of the back pair of legs are greatly enlarged for jumping. The tibia fourth segments of the hind legs are armed with a number of movable spurs, the arrangement of which is characteristic of each species. The tibia of the front legs bear 1 or more tympani, which are used for the reception of sound. For the wings lie flat on the body and are very variable in size between species, being reduced in size in some crickets and missing in others. The forewings are elytra made of tough chitin, acting as a protective shield for the soft parts of the body, and in males, bear the stridulatory organs for the production of sound. The hind pair is membranous, folding fan lies under the forewings. In many species, the wings are not adapted for flight. One of the largest members of the family are the 5 centimeters in long bull crickets, brachytroops, which excavate burrows a meter or more deep. The tree crickets Ocanthinae are delicate white or pale green insects with transparent forewings, while the field crickets Grylloidea are robust brown or black insects. 1. Distribution. Inhabited crickets have a cosmopolitan distribution, being found in all parts of the world with the exception of cold regions at latitudes higher than about 55 north and south. They have colonized many large and small islands, sometimes flying over the sea to reach these locations, or perhaps conveyed on floating timber or by human activity. The greatest diversity occurs in tropical locations, such as in Malaysia, where 88 species were heard chirping from a single location near Kuala Lumpur. A greater number than this could have been present because some species are mute. Crickets are found in many habitats. Members of several subfamilies are found in the upper tree canopy, in bushes, and among grasses and herbs. They also occur on the ground and in caves, and some are subterranean, excavating shallow or deep burrows. Some make home in rotting wood, and certain beach-dwelling species can run and jump over the surface of water. 1. Phylogeny densecrix are relatively defenseless, soft-bodied insects. Most species are nocturnal and spend the day hidden in cracks, under bark, inside curling leaves, under stones or fallen logs, in leaf litter, or in the cracks in the ground that develop in dry weather. Some excavate their own shallow holes in rotting wood or underground and fold in their antennae to conceal their presence. Some of these burrows are temporary shelters used for a single day, but others serve as more permanent residences and places for mating and laying eggs. Crickets burrow by loosening the soil with the mandibles and then carrying it with the limbs, flicking it backwards with the hind legs, or pushing it with the head. 5 other defensive strategies are the use of camouflage, fleeing, and aggression. Some species have adopted colorings, shapes, and patterns that make it difficult for predators that hunt by sight to detect them. They tend to be dull shades of brown, gray, and green that blend into their background, and desert species tend to be pale. Some species can fly, but the mode of flight tends to be clumsy, so the most usual response to danger is to scuttle away to find a hiding place. 5. While some crickets have a weak bite, a member of the Grylloidea or raspy crickets from Australia were found to have the strongest bite of any insect. 6. Chirping. A male gryllus cricket chirping, its head faces its burrow, the leathery for wings tegmina. Singular tegmen are raised clear of the more delicate hind wings and are being scraped against each other's stridulation to produce the song. The burrow acts as a resonator, amplifying the sound. Most male crickets make a loud chirping sound by stridulation scraping to specially textured body parts together. The stridulatory organ is located on the tegmen, or for wing, which is leathery in texture. A large vein runs along the center of each tegmen, with cone-like serrations on its edge forming a file-like structure, and at the rear edge of the tegmen is a scraper. The tegmina are held at an angle to the body and rhythmically raised and lowered, which causes the scraper on one wing to rasp on the file on the other. The central part of the tegmen contains the harp, an area of thick, sclerotized membrane, which resonates and amplifies the volume of sound, as does the pocket of air between the tegmina and the body wall. Most female crickets lack the necessary adaptations to stridulate, so make no sound. 7. Several types of cricket songs are in the repertoire of some species. The calling song attracts females and repels other males and is fairly loud. The courting song is used when a female cricket is near and encourages her to mate with the caller. A triumphal song is produced for a brief period after a successful mating and may reinforce the mating bond to encourage the female to lay some eggs rather than find another male to mate. An aggressive song is triggered by contact chemoreceptors on the antennae that detect the presence of another male cricket. 9 crickets chirp at different rates depending on their species and the temperature of their environment. Most species chirp at higher rates. The higher the temperature is, about 62 chirps a minute at 13 Celsius, 55 F in one common species. Each species has its own rate. The relationship between temperature and the rate of chirping is known as Dolbear's law. According to this law, counting the number of chirps produced in 14 seconds by the snowy tree cricket, common in the United States, and adding 40 will approximate the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. 8. Duration, 11 seconds. 011 The Calling Song of a Field Cricketin 1975. Dr. William H. K. discovered that the parasitic tachinid fly Ormia acratia is attracted to the song of the cricket and uses it to locate the male to deposit her larvae on him. It was the first known example of a natural enemy that locates its host or prey using the mating signal. Since then, many species of crickets have been found to be carrying the same parasitic fly or related species. In response to this selective pressure, a mutation leaving males unable to chirp was observed amongst a population of Teleogryllus oceanicus on the Hawaiian island of Kauai, enabling these crickets to elude their parasitoid predators. 11. A different mutation with the same effect was also discovered on the neighboring island of Oahu Ka, 100 miles 160 kilometers away. 12. Recently, new purring males of the same species in Hawaii are able to produce a novel auditory sexual signal that can be used to attract females while greatly reducing the likelihood of parasitoid attack from the fly. 13. Flightsome species, such as the ground crickets Nimobene, are wingless. Others have small for wings and no hind wings. Capholandrivus. Others lack hind wings and have shortened for wings in females only, while others are Macropterus, with the hind wings longer than the fore wings. In Teleogryllus, the proportion of Macropterus individuals varies from very low to 100%. Probably, most species with hind wings longer than fore wings engage in flight. For some species, such as Gryllus assimilis, take off, fly, and land efficiently and well, while other species are clumsy flyers. 1. In some species, the hind wings are shed, leaving wing stumps, usually after dispersal of the insect by flight. In other species, they may be pulled off and consumed by the cricket itself or by another individual, probably providing a nutritional boost. 14. Gryllus firmus exhibits wing polymorphism. Some individuals have fully functional, long hind wings, and others have short wings and cannot fly. The short-winged females have smaller flight muscles, greater ovarian development, and produce more eggs, so the polymorphism adapts the cricket for either dispersal or reproduction. In some long-winged individuals, the flight muscles deteriorate during adulthood and the insect's reproductive capabilities improve. 15. Deetwo adult domestic crickets, Ocheta domesticus, feeding on carrot-captive crickets, are omnivorous. When deprived of their natural diet, they accept a wide range of organic foodstuffs. Some species are completely herbivorous, feeding on flowers, fruit, and leaves, with ground-based species consuming seedlings, grasses, pieces of leaf, and the shoots of young plants. Others are more predatory and include in their diet invertebrate eggs, larvae, pupae, molting insects, scale insects, and aphids. 16. Many are scavengers and consume various organic remains, decaying plants, seedlings, and fungi. 17. In captivity, many species have been successfully raised on a diet of ground, commercial dry dog food, supplemented with lettuce and aphids. 16. Crickets have relatively powerful jaws, and several species have been known to bite humans. 18. Reproduction and life cycle. Male crickets establish their dominance over each other by aggression. They start by lashing each other with their antennae and flaring their mandibles. Unless one retreats at this stage, they resort to grappling, at the same time each emitting calls that are quite unlike those uttered in other circumstances. When one achieves dominance, it sings loudly, while the loser remains silent. 19. Females are generally attracted to males by their calls, though in non-stridulatory species, some other mechanism must be involved. After the pair has made antennal contact, a courtship period may occur during which the character of the call changes. The female mounts the male, and a single spermatopher is transferred to the external genitalia of the female. Sperm flows from this into the female's oviduct over a period of a few minutes or up to an hour, depending on species. After copulation, the female may remove or eat the spermatophore. Males may attempt to prevent this with various ritualized behaviors. The female may mate on several occasions with different males. 20 Various Instars of Grylloidea similis by Robert Evans Snodgrass, 1930. Most crickets lay their eggs in the soil or inside the stems of plants, and to do this, female crickets have a long, needle-like or saber-like egg-laying organ called an ovipositor. Some ground-dwelling species have dispensed with this, either depositing their eggs in an underground chamber or pushing them into the wall of a burrow. 1. This passes through about 10 larval stages, and with each successive molt, it becomes more like an adult. Predators, parasites, and pathogen scricks have many natural enemies and are subject to various pathogens and parasites. They are eaten by large numbers of vertebrate and invertebrate predators, and their hard parts are often found during the examination of animal intestines. 5. Mediterranean house geckos Hemidactylus tursicus have learned that although a calling-decorated cricket Grylloides supplicans may be safely positioned in an out-of-reach burrow, female crickets attracted to the call can be intercepted and eaten. 19 crickets are reared as food for pets and zoo animals like this baboon spider, Pteronotulus murinus, emerging from its den to feed. The entomopathogenic fungus Metarhizium anisoplia attacks and kills crickets and has been used as the basis of control in pest populations. 5. The insects are also affected by the cricket paralysis virus, which has caused high levels of fatalities in cricket rearing facilities. 28 other fatal diseases that have been identified in mass rearing establishments include rickettsia and 3 further viruses. The diseases may spread more rapidly if the crickets become cannibalistic and eat the corpses. 5 red parasitic mites sometimes attach themselves to the dorsal region of crickets and may greatly affect them. 5. The horsehair worm Paragordias varius is an internal parasite and can control the behavior of its cricket host and cause it to enter water, where the parasite continues its life cycle and the cricket likely drowns. 29. The larvae of the sarcophagid fly Sarcophaga kellyi develop inside the body cavity of field crickets. 30. Female parasitic wasps of Rhopalosoma lay their eggs on crickets, and their developing larvae gradually devour their hosts. Other wasps in the family Phylogeny are egg parasitoids, seeking out batches of eggs laid by crickets in plant tissues in which to insert their eggs. 5. The fly Ormia ocratia has very acute hearing and targets calling male crickets. It locates its prey by ear and then lays its eggs nearby. The developing larvae burrow inside any crickets with which they come in contact and in the course of a week or so, devour what remains of the host before pupating. 31. In Florida, the parasitic flies were only present in the autumn, and at that time of year, the males sang less, but for longer periods. A trade-off exists for the male between attracting females and being parasitized. 32. Phylogeny and taxonomy Cretaceous fossil cricket from Brazil. Phylogenetic relationships of the Grylloidea, summarized by Darrell Gwynn in 1995 from his own work using mainly anatomical characteristics, and that of earlier authors, are shown in the following cladogram, with the Orthoptera divided into 2 main groups: Ensiform crickets Sensulato and Califera grasshoppers. Fossil Ensiform are found from the late Carboniferous period 300 Nya onwards, 33-34, and the true crickets, Grylloidea, from the Triassic period to 150 to 200 Nya. 1 cladogram after Gwynn, 1995. 33. A phylogenetic study by Jost and Shaw in 2006 using sequences from 1.8s to 8s and 1.6s rRNA supported the monophyly of Ensiform. Most Ensiform families were also found to be monophyletic, and the superfamily Grylloidea was found to include Stenopelmidae, Anastostomatidae, Gryllocritidae, and Lezina. Schizodactylidae and Grylloidea were shown to be sister taxa, and Rhaphidophoride and Pterygonoidae were found to be more closely related to Grylloidea than had previously been thought. The authors stated that a high degree of conflict exists between the molecular and morphological data, possibly indicating that much homoplasy is present in Ensiform, particularly in acoustic structures. They considered that tegment stridulation and tibial tympani are ancestral to Ensifera and have been lost on multiple occasions, especially within the Grylloidea. 35. Folklore and folklore and mythology surrounding crickets is extensive. 36. The singing of crickets in the folklore of Brazil and elsewhere is sometimes taken to be a sign of impending rain or of a financial windfall. In Álvaro Nunes Cabeza de Vaca's chronicles of the Spanish conquest of the Americas, the sudden chirping of a cricket heralded the sighting of land for his crew, just as their water supply had run out. 37. In Caraguatatuba, Brazil, a black cricket in a room is said to portend illness, a gray one, money, and a green one, hope. 37. In Alagoas State, northeast Brazil, a cricket announces death, thus it is killed if it chirps in a house. 38. In Barbados, a loud cricket means money is coming in, hence, a cricket must not be killed or evicted if it chirps inside a house. However, another type of cricket that is less noisy forebodes illness or death. 39. In literature illustrated for Charles Dickens's 1883 Cricket on the Hearth by Fred Barnard. Crickets feature as major characters in novels and children's books. Charles Dickens's 1845 novella, The Cricket on the Hearth, divided into sections called chirps, tells the story of a cricket which chirps on the hearth and acts as a guardian angel to a family. 40. Carlo Collodi's 1883 children's book La Avventure di Pinocchio, The Adventures of Pinocchio, featured O Grillo Parlani, the talking cricket, as one of its characters. 41. George Selden's 1960 children's book The Cricket in Times Square tells the story of Chester, the cricket from Connecticut, who joins a family and their other animals, and is taken to see Times Square in New York. 42. The story, which won the Newbery Honor. 43. Came to Selden on hearing a real cricket chirp in Times Square. 40. For Souvenirs Entomologiques, a book written by the French entomologist Jean-Henri Fabre, devotes a whole chapter to the cricket, discussing its construction of a burrow and its song-making. The account is mainly of the field cricket, but also mentions the Italian cricket. 45. Crickets have from time to time appeared in poetry. William Wordsworth's 1805 poem, The Cottager to Her Infant, includes the couplet, The kitten sleeps upon the hearth. The crickets long have ceased their mirth. 46. John Keats's 1819 poem Ode to Autumn includes the lines Hedge crickets sing, and now with treble soft, the redbreast whistles from a garden croft. 47. The Chinese Tang Dynasty poet Du Fu, 712 to 770, wrote a poem that in the translation by J.P. Seton begins, How's cricket? Trifling thing, and yet how his mournful song moves us. Out in the grass his cry was a tremble, but now he trills beneath our bed to share his sorrow. 48. As pets and fighting animals, main article. Crickets as pets. Meiji period cricket holder in the form of a normonal palanquin, see 1850. Crickets are kept as pets and are considered good luck in some countries. In China, they are sometimes kept in cages or in hollowed-out gourds specially created in novel shapes. 49. The practice was common in Japan for thousands of years. It peaked in the 19th century, though crickets are still sold at pet shops. 50. It is also common to have them as caged pets in some European countries, particularly in the Iberian Peninsula. Cricket fighting is a traditional Chinese pastime that dates back to the Tang Dynasty, 618 to 907. Originally an indulgence of emperors, cricket fighting later became popular among commoners. 51. The dominance and fighting ability of males does not depend on strength alone. It has been found that they become more aggressive after certain pre-fight experiences, such as isolation or when defending a refuge. Crickets forced to fly for a short while will afterwards fight for 2 to 3 times longer than they otherwise would. 52. Eat for 2 to 3 times longer than they otherwise would. 52. As Fudido Bon Camaru de Grillos Cebolleros, deep fried house crickets, Ocheta domesticus, at a market in Thailand in the southern part of Asia, including Cambodia, Laos, and Thailand. Crickets commonly are eaten as a snack, prepared by deep frying soaked and cleaned insects. 53 in Thailand, there are 20,000 farmers rearing crickets, with an estimated production of 7,500 tons per year. 54. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization has implemented a project in Laos to improve cricket farming and, consequently, food security. 55. The food conversion efficiency of house crickets, Otte domesticus, is 1.7, some 5 times higher than that for beef cattle, and if their fecundity is taken into account, 15 to 20 times higher. 56-57 cricket flour may be used as an additive to consumer foods such as pasta, bread, crackers, and cookies. Cricket flour is used in protein bars, pet foods, livestock feed, nutraceuticals, and other industrial applications. The United Nations says that the use of insect protein, such as cricket flour, could be critical in feeding the growing population of the planet while being less damaging to the environment. 58 crickets are also raised as food for carnivorous zoo animals, laboratory animals, and pets. 559. They may be gut-loaded with additional minerals, such as calcium, to provide a balanced diet for predators, such as tree frogs Hylidah. 60. Common expressions be the 19th century cricket and crickets were in use as euphemisms for using Christ as an interjection. The addition of Hymeni, a variation of Gemini, sometimes shortened to Jimmy, created the expressions Hymeni cricket or Jimmy crickets as less blasphemous alternatives to exclaiming Jesus Christ. 61. By the end of the 20th century, the sound of chirping crickets came to represent quietude in literature, theater, and film. From this sentiment arose expressions equating crickets with silence altogether, particularly when a group of assembled people makes no noise. These expressions have grown from the more descriptive, so quiet that you can hear crickets, to simply saying crickets as shorthand for complete silence. 62. In popular culture, hegemony cricket. From Walt Disney's movie Pinocchio 1940, cricket characters feature in the Walt Disney animated movies Pinocchio 1940, where Hymeni cricket becomes the title character's conscience, and in Mulan 1998, where Kriki is carried in a cage as a symbol of luck. In the Asian manner, the Crickets was the name of Buddy Holly's rock and roll band. 63. Holly's hometown baseball team in the 1990s was called the Lubbock Crickets. 64. Cricket is the name of a U.S. children's literary magazine founded in 1973. It uses a cast of insect characters. 65.